just play the damn thing.
Once upon a time, a buddy of mine was looking to trade off this guitar, for some other gear that I have. I ended up trading him. I think it was a Boss GT10, which at the time was Boss's top-end effects processor, straight across for this guitar. What is this guitar? We don't know. There's no markings on it whatsoever. None. At all. Anywhere. It was a custom build of some kind. We can trace it back to the friend of mine in particular, who's a little bit older than me. He bought it not long after he got out of college, which I believe was in the early '90s. He bought it at a private shop at a private guitar shop in Zionsville, Indiana, that I don't believe is no longer there. As far as what it is and who built it, again, I don't know that we will ever know. Some people have speculated it might be a Warrior, an early Warrior guitar. I don't think so, because it doesn't look anything like a Warrior. Some people have speculated it may have been a couple of other, really, really obscure boutique brands. We may never know. That headstock shape kind of seems to indicate, that somebody was going for the Jackson look. The neck is actually a little bit fatter than most Jacksons, but still very comfortable to play. And obviously, it's modeled very, very similarly after a Jackson Soloist. It's got some other cool features on it too. Those are Godot tuners that you see there on the back. That is a Kahler Spider locking tremolo, which is kind of Kahler's great big middle finger to the original Floyd Rose. Very, very similar design to that. Again, neck through construction and a black stained. I believe it's an ebony fretboard. And of course, cool white page job. It's a beautiful guitar. It's a beautiful guitar, and I kind of wish I got to play it more often than I do. But the reason why I don't is the last feature I'm going to talk about, and the reason behind this video. These pickups right here are actually guitar pickups made by Bartolini. Now, Bartolini nowadays are known primarily for their bass pickups, and they make fabulous bass pickups. Some of the best sounding Ibanez basses that I've ever heard had Barts in them. They make excellent pickups. Though and they do still have a guitar pickup line out there. Though they're not nearly as popular as the bass pickups. I'll see what links I can find and post them down below. Now, what's a little bit different about these pickups is while they're pretty high output and they're passive high output pickups, but they also have an active preamp on the inside of it. And as a result, these are the hottest sounding pickups I have ever heard anywhere. I've never heard another guitar anywhere, any place, anytime that has sounded anything like this one. If I'm doing anything that requires any kind of something remotely resembling a clean tone, this ain't the guitar that I can use. It just doesn't work for that. So I thought I would show you guys just exactly how hot these pickups actually are. Now, I encourage you to check out Glenn Fricker's video on the myths of guitar pickups, because I agree with him. Guitar pickups really aren't good for, when it comes to guitar tone. Pickups don't do much for that. And there's a zillion other places in the chain that a signal can be EQ'd. So, the tone, guitar pickups tone is pretty much irrelevant. What they are very, very much needed for, however, is output and clarity. Now, this particular guitar, again, I've already told you about the output. It does have some pretty nice clarity to it in some settings. As well, and and it's also got some some settings that are kind of get a little bit more on the muddy side, just because it's cranking out so much juice, right? The last feature of this guitar, the preamp in particular, it actually has a boost installed in it. You'll notice there's no blade switch or a toggle switch or anything like that to switch pickups. Each pickup has its own control. Back pickup on off, front pickup on off, and then the middle switch right here toggles the boost on and off. In the up position, the boost is actually off, believe it or not. And then when you flip it down, that engages the boost. And the boost also adds a little bit more bottom end. The boost off is kind of a little bit more, offers a little bit more note definition. One thing I forgot to mention earlier, being that this guitar doesn't have any kind of branding or unique markings on it of any kind, lovingly named this guitar Frank just so that we had something to call him. So from here on out, this is Frank. So here's what we're going to do for this first example. I wanted to plug this thing into the absolute cleanest signal, uninhibited clean signal that I could possibly think of to plug it into. So we're just going to plug it straight into the interface and use a virtual 2-notes cabinet there on the back end. So it's got something to come out of and hear how it sounds. Now, for a reference point that I think everybody, at least regular viewers of this channel, will be familiar with, we're going to also conduct the same experiment first with my trusty Schecter CR6. You guys are very familiar with this guitar. I use this guitar in most of my demos. And the reason why I use this guitar in most of my demos is because this one has Schecter USA proprietary pickups in it. And they're kind of high output, really, really good sounding pickups. And versatile sounding. They do a lot of things really, really well. I use this guitar most of the time in my demos though, because it's an extremely well built guitar. I mean, I set this thing up once out of the box. I've never had to put another wrench on it since. It's as stable as can be. Holds tune, never, the neck never freaking moves, and it plays and sounds freaking awesome. And it's also an $800 guitar, which is well within a price range that most people can afford. That's why you guys see this thing so much. Okay, so for my next trick, I'm going to do something similar, except I'm going to run it through a mic preamp. This is an ART TPS-2 microphone preamp that I have here in my studio setup. Each channel on this preamp actually has multiple different instrument types of settings. I've got it on the electric guitar setting. So this is a preamp, studio preamp designed to be used specifically with electric guitars. All right, now let's hear some high gain tones. This is what you guys came here to see this thing do anyway, right? So, I'll tell you what, we are going to use my trusty old PV6505 Plus combo. Glenn Fricker has been raving about this amp on his channel here lately quite a bit. Now he's not a big fan of the speaker that's in it. It comes with the with the PV Sheffield in it. He is not a big fan of that speaker, and he is a big advocate of getting that thing out of there, if you don't just chop the speaker off and turn it into a head anyway, which he just recently did a video on. I personally happen to like the PV Sheffield in it. I don't know, maybe my hearing is as shitty as Eddie Van Halen's was. That might explain that. Regardless, I think it's a pretty good sounding amp and a sound that a lot of people are pretty familiar with these days, particularly in the high gain metal communities. Now, I'm running this in two different ways. I've got a mic on the speaker, the mic being a Sennheiser E906 guitar mic, and then I'm also running out of the DI in the back, and the DI will be going through a virtual cab on the back end in Studio One. I'm going to show examples of both guitars, both with the microphone isolated, the DI isolated, and the two blended together, just so you can get an idea of how everything sounds. And last but not least, because we're here, let's go ahead and hear this thing in a full track demo. And if I may, whatever device that you are listening to the audio in this video on, if you have a way to pan left and right, that is how I recorded it. I panned the DI tracks hard left and the microphone tracks hard right for both the rhythm section and the solo. So if you want to hear how the two differ, versus everything blended together in the center, that's the reason why I did that. And last but not least, the rhythm section, the boost is actually engaged, and then I actually turned it off for the guitar solo. It's a really interesting conversation piece because it's a really neat guitar, and it's a nice guitar. It's a nice guitar. It's really well built. I don't know what it would be worth. It's the kind of thing that's probably not worth a whole lot of money on the used market. It's worth whatever somebody's willing to pay me for it, I guess. Not that it's for sale. It's not. But I've pulled it out randomly to use in bands here, just on occasion, and again, it's always an interesting conversation piece. And after everybody hears it, everybody's like, "What is that thing?" It's a really, really unique instrument. and one that I thought was worthy of sharing with you guys here today. Comment down below. Adios.